In today's video, I want to kind of share a perspective that I'm very fortunate to have where I get to watch over 700 agents run their business and share some best practices from listing presentations. Hey, my name is Chance Brown. I'm the broker owner of CB&A Realtors, and I make video content like this because I'm passionate about helping realtors build great businesses. There is no right or wrong way to run a listing appointment. I've done really formal listing presentations. I've done flip-flops and t-shirts listing presentations with friends. But there are some things that I see amongst agents that I think work really, really well to help make sure that you convert. I want to address something about listing presentations before we even get into what are some of the best practices. We know statistically, because it's something that's been measured for decades, that if you walk into a listing presentation, you've got a pretty good chance of getting the business. Most people don't interview more than one agent. And so as long as you can put a plan together and you sound like you can sell their home, they're probably going to go for it. Does that absolve us of taking the time and effort to do this right? I don't think so. In fact, I think that it puts the responsibility even more on us to make sure that we do things correctly and to the best of our ability. Because those, for lack of a better language, layups when it comes to getting a listing agreement signed, those are the people who are also most likely going to refer us. And so don't we want to do the very best job we can with those people so that those referrals come? The answer should be yes there. So let's talk about some things that I see agents do that I think is a little different and are really great best practices. The pre-listing packet. Man, I am such an advocate of pre-listing packets, and you can make yours however you want it to be. We've got agents that have these specially branded boxes that they deliver. You can do it whatever way you want. It doesn't matter. But I think that it's important for a couple of reasons. It gets you a look at the house before you go there, and we'll talk about that in just a second. It's going to help eliminate a lot of questions while giving you ownership of the information of whatever you deliver. That last piece, the ownership of the information, is so important if you are going into a competitive listing situation, because let's say you drop off a pre-listing packet, they go through it, and then another agent comes in and tells them the stuff that's in your pre-listing packet. They already know it because you gave it to them, and they're comparing you as better than that person, and they may not have even ever met you yet. That's so important. Now, rewind a little bit and let's talk about you get to look at the house. I think a mistake sometimes that agents make is they roll up to the house for the first time at that listing presentation and they start taking notes outside on what the front of the house needs to get it ready for the market. I think that's a terrible idea because there's a decent chance that that client's looking out the window. Like, they know you're coming, right? Is the very first thing you want them to see you do write down a bunch of stuff that's wrong with their home? No. They're automatically on the defensive the second you walk in the door. That's not how we want to start our appointment. So dropping that pre-listing packet off first actually lets you get a good look at the front of the house before you ever get there for the appointment, and you can have your notes preloaded. Okay, now that we've done that, I'm a huge fan of having the client tell the story of their home to you before you get into anything else. A lot of agents come in, they come loaded for bear, they're ready to talk about their marketing, positioning, program, story, system, whatever it is that they are super excited to talk about. They've got their listing presentation, they've got everything ready to go. And then at that point, the client doesn't care. They just don't. They don't care about you until they know that you care about them. And that's so important to understand. Having them take you on a tour of the home, asking questions about what they like, what they don't like. Tell me the story of your home. Tell me the things that you've upgraded and updated. I want to get a good grasp before we sit down, because that's going to help inform how we market this home. I need to be able to tell the story of the home, and I don't know it. I need you to tell it to me first. Those kind of things, I think, shows that you care. It gets them the opportunity to get all those nervous jitters about selling their home and what they might need to do and all of that. They get to do it up front. You get to listen. You get to take notes. You get to ask questions. And now they think you care. They will care about what you have to say. And so I always start with a little bit of an agenda, but then I move to tell me the story of your home. And I think that that's really, really important. Next up, careful when you talk about price. The first thing that they're going to want to know is, what can you sell my home for and how much money am I going to walk away from the table? And we want to talk about that. We do. We don't want to talk about it first thing though, right? We want to talk about it more towards the end after they've had a chance to either tell us the story of their home and we get to tell them our story and how we're going to market their home, and then let's talk about price. I'm not opposed to ranges up front, but I think that you have to make sure they understand the value in what you're doing before you really get into the price. Because if we don't have an agreed upon strategy up front, it doesn't matter what the price is. It just doesn't. I may not want to sell your home. It happens. If you're going to come in and we're not going to be realistic about price, I may not want to sell your home. So I think that we need to be very specific about when we're going to talk about price, and we need to let them know that ahead of time. So when you first talk to them, say, hey, listen, when I get there, or if you're already there, say, hey, what I'd like to do now is let you tell me the story of your home. And I'd like to sit down and ask a few questions and tell you a little bit about how we do things. And then we can get into the heart of marketing your home and pricing and strategy and how we launch and all of those things. I think if you set that expectation up front, there's an agenda, even if it's just a mental agenda, and you can follow that a lot more easy. Which brings me to, it's okay to say no. However, I think that you need to have a script for saying no that sets the expectation up front. I think it also is important that that script give them the right to tell you no. And so we use and teach in our brokerage a script called Tying the Knot, which is an old Sandler sales training script that is really simple, and it's tying the NOT, naturally, obviously, typically. So naturally, you invited me here this evening because you have questions of me. I'm here to answer those. I want to make sure that we are moving forward in the right direction to be able to sell your home. Obviously, I'm going to have some questions for you also. Typically, in about 45 minutes or an hour, we're going to know if we're a good fit to work together. So the naturally acknowledges the fact that they have things to say and gives them permission to ask whatever they want. The obviously gives you permission to ask whatever you need to ask to be able to do your job. The typically gives both parties an out. I think these are some of the best things you can do. But, and it's a huge but, if you're not specifically asking for the business before you leave those people's house, you have failed yourself and the entire reason that you went there. You have to close for the business. Even if it's an assumptive close, even if it's a, hey, when can we schedule photography? If you're not asking them for the business, you have failed in the whole purpose you went there. So make sure that as part of your strategy, if you decide, I want to work with these people to help them sell their home, tell them that. Hey, I want to work with you to help you sell your home. Are you good moving forward with me? When can we get started? I think if you follow some of those best practices and incorporate them into your listing presentations, you're going to be successful more often than you're not. Hey, if this was valuable to you, I would be honored if you would subscribe, follow, like, share with one of your friends. And if I can ever be of service to you, please don't hesitate to reach out.